Good morning, students. Today we are going to study poem number 3, Keeping Quiet, by famous Nobel laureate poet from Chile, Pablo Neruda. Before we start discussing the poem, let's study something about the poet himself. Pablo Neruda, 1904 to 1973, is the pen name of Neftali Ricardo Reyes Basalto, who was born in the town of Parral in Chile. Neruda's poems are full of easily understood images which make them no less beautiful. He won the Nobel Prize for Literature in the year 1971. In this poem, Neruda talks about the necessity of quiet introspection for creating a feeling of mutual understanding among human beings. So, the sentence in this poem, Neruda talks about the necessity of quiet introspection. This is quiet introspection. This expression is the most important expression about this poem. Let's talk something about the poem itself as an introduction and theme. Neruda was greatly disturbed by the violence, aggression, hatred, and all kinds of negative activities, harmful activities spread all over the world. He was always in favor of peace and tranquility. He considered language, religion, race, nationality, all these things and many more such activities as divisive forces. Divisive forces, it means the forces that divide mankind on these and such basis. He wants all of us to go for a momentary silence together. This poem is an appeal to the entire humanity, to the whole world, to adopt momentary silence, to stop all activities temporarily. He is not in favor of total inactivity, rather he is in favor of momentary silence and momentary inactivity. Why? Why does he want it from all of us, and that too together? Because in his opinion, each and every human being in the world is engaged in thoughtless actions. We are doing actions, performing actions without giving it any thought, without thinking over it. That is why our actions have become violent, aggressive, right? So in order to remove negativity from our thoughts and in order to rectify our actions through thought, he wants all human beings to be quiet and inactive for a few moments, right? And what shall we all achieve through this momentary silence and inactivity? Pablo Neruda actually aims to give all of us a time to think over, to ponder, to meditate, to contemplate our actions. And he wants all of us to think whether the actions that we are performing is guided by some positive thoughts or by negative thoughts. If our actions are guided by, motivated by negative thoughts, we must all rectify our thinking. We must all be people with positive thinking, positive thoughts. And if we are all inactive and quiet, we will find time to think over our actions. So ultimately, what we are going to achieve through this moment of momentary silence and inactivity, we will achieve mental peace, mental sanity, mental balance. And thus, when we are all together in thinking positively about our actions, this world will become a place never before. Or this place, this earth, our planet will become heaven. We will have to go nowhere else to search for heaven. The heaven will exist on this earth itself, and nobody will be thirsty of others' blood. Nobody will be chasing endless dreams, and nobody will be engaged in mad race. Right? So in this way, Pablo Neruda actually wants from all of us a few moments to rectify our actions, a few moments to become positive about our life, and a few moments to keep our lives moving. Right? And he categorically mentions language as a divisive force. Right? When we speak our languages, what happens? You must have seen, you must have studied in the very first lesson of your course, last lesson, that we start considering our language the best in the world. That no other language is at par with our language, and that only our language should be spoken all over the world. We saw it, or we can see it in the last lesson, the very first chapter of our course, where the French army was defeated, and the Prussian army took over the two districts of France, Alsace and Lorraine, and there, by the order of Berlin, Germany, the right to speak and study their mother language was taken away by the Germans from the Frenchmen of Alsace and Lorraine. So language also in this way becomes a divisive force, right? Apart from nationality, apart from racism, especially the fight, the looking down upon by the white people of the black people. You may have heard these days, and especially in the field of cricket, Lives Matter, this kind of campaign is going on, that black people also matter equally in the world as do the white men, right? So this kind of racism is also a divisive force. Nationality has sometimes, when it crosses its proper limit, it becomes jingoism, right? And language, race, nationality, and then the biggest that we can see in our country itself, religion. Religion, that is a source of peace, has become a matter of contention, a matter of fight in this world. So Pablo Neruda asks all of us to go quiet and ponder over all these things and rectify our thoughts, and then start living in this world again with thoughtful actions, with positive actions, with productive actions, right? So This much about the poem itself as an introduction and as a theme. We will take up few lines at a time, and let's start and see how the poem goes. Now I am going to read first few lines. Now we will count to 12, and we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. Now the first lines. Now we will count to 12. Now before we start, let me make one point very clear here, that this is an appeal by the poet. The whole poem is an appeal to the entire humanity, to the whole world. Right? An appeal for what? Appeal for momentary silence. Right? Now we will count to 12 and we will all keep still. What is the poet appealing for? The poet is appealing for the whole world to count up to 12 and for keeping still. Still means motionless, inactive, right? So why 12? Why not 13? Why not 11? Why not any other number, 100, 1000 or whatever, 1, 2, 3? Because when we start anything, we count only up to 3, 1, 2, 3. Why has specifically this number 12 been mentioned by the poet? The poet has mentioned number 12 for a specific purpose. You must have seen in analog clocks, I am not talking about digital clocks, I am talking about analog clocks. In analog clocks, numbers are put on the dial from 1 to 12, right? And there are hands or needles, hands, right, in the clock. 2 to 3 hands are there for minute and for second. They start their round from 12, and then again completing the whole round, these hands again reach 12 for starting a new round, right? That is why the poet has mentioned number 12. That is to say, the poet wants from all of us to act like the hands of the analog clock, right? The way analog clock hands start their round from 12, in the same manner, we too have to make a new beginning in our world after counting up to 12, right? And after counting up to 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 12, we will all be quiet. We will all go quiet. We will all go motionless. We will all go silent. Right? Next few lines. For once on the face of the earth. For once on the face of the earth means on this earth, in this world. Now, what are the suggestions or proposals by the poet? First, let's not speak in any language. Let's not speak in any language. The poet says, let's not use any language. Why? Because I have already mentioned that the poet considers language a divisive force. And second point, if we continue talking, how can we become quiet? So, in order to keep ourselves quiet, we should stop using languages. First point. And second point, we should stop using languages, a divisive force. Second point, let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. right? So let's stop for 1 second. It means he is appealing for momentary, temporary inactivity, right? It is temporary, it is momentary, it is not permanent. The poet is asking for momentary silence and momentary inactivity, right? And last line, and not move our arms so much. And not move our arms so much, it has two meanings. The word arms has a pun on it, P-U-N, pun on it. It has two meanings. Arms, the limbs connected with, joined with our shoulders. First meaning is there, and it conveys the simple meaning of stopping all activities. And the second meaning, and the bigger meaning, is arms also means weapons, W-E-A-P-O-N-S, weapons, right? So the poet is also asking us all not to use any kind of weapons in the world, right? So in these lines, the poet appeals to us all to go quiet for some time, and second, he asks us all, or appeals to us all, for becoming inactive for some time and not use any kind of weapon in the world for some time, right? Because the poet has already said, or he means to say, that our actions have become violent and aggressive, full of hatred, right? So if we continue using arms, that is weapons, we will not be able to rectify our thoughts or purify our thoughts, right? So this much in this audio. In the next audio. Thank you very much.